Hey guys, welcome back to another Reddit revenge story video. In this story, the night before starting my new job, my psycho ex burned my car to the ground while recording it for social media. She thought she had won until the police told her what was actually inside the car. Let's dive right into the video. This story was submitted by a viewer via email. So this story is about my ex-girlfriend who made my life a living hell for 2 years and then tried to destroy what little I had left when I finally escaped. Let me start from the beginning though. I met my ex at a friend's barbecue about 3 years ago. She was charming, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in everything I had to say, and the first few months were honestly incredible. She would surprise me with my favorite snacks, we would stay up late talking about everything and nothing, and she made me feel like I was the most important person in her world. Then around the 6-month mark, things started to shift. It was subtle at first. She would ask who I was texting when my phone buzzed, and she would want to know exactly what time I'd be home from work. She started making comments about my female coworkers, asking if they were pretty, if they flirted with me, and if I found them attractive. I brushed it off as an insecurity. I thought if I just reassured her enough, she would realize that she had nothing to worry about, but I was wrong. By month 8, she was checking my phone while I slept. I would wake up at 3 a.m. to find her scrolling through my messages, reading texts from my sister, and claiming they sounded suspicious. When I protested, she would cry and say that I was making her feel crazy for having valid concerns. The tracking started shortly after. She installed a location sharing app on my phone under the guise of safety. If my drive home took longer than usual because of traffic, I would get a barrage of texts asking where I was, who I was with, and why I was lying to her. One time, I stopped to grab milk on the way home without telling her, and she accused me of meeting someone for a quickie in the parking lot. It sounds insane writing it out, but when you are in it, you don't even see how crazy it really is. You just keep thinking if you can be better, more transparent, more careful, things will improve, but they didn't. The verbal abuse escalated. She would scream at me for hours over the smallest things. I forgot to text her during my lunch break. I was obviously spending that time flirting with someone else. A female customer smiled at me at the grocery store. I must have been giving her signals. My sister called to chat. She was trying to set me up with one of her friends. And then came the physical stuff. She threw a remote at my head during one argument. Another time she hurled a plate that shattered against the wall next to me. The worst was when she grabbed a kitchen knife during a screaming match and threw it. It stuck in the drywall about 6 inches from my shoulder. I just stood there stunned, and she immediately started sobbing, saying I made her so angry that she couldn't control herself and that if I just stopped making her insecure, this wouldn't happen again. I should have left then. I know that now, but she had isolated me so thoroughly by that point that I didn't even know how. She had convinced me that my friends were bad influences who wanted us to break up. She had told my family that I was stressed at work and needed space. The day I had stopped checking in as much, I felt trapped. Then her mom got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. For about a month she softened, the accusations stopped, and she needed me, and I was there for her. I drove her to her mom's chemo appointments, held her when she cried, and made sure she ate when she was too stressed to think about food. I thought maybe this tragedy would help her realize what really mattered, that we could get through this and come out stronger. Her mom passed away 3 weeks after the diagnosis. It was devastating. I watched the woman I love fall apart, and all I could do was be there. The day after the funeral, she looked at me with hollow eyes and said she couldn't handle dealing with the ashes. The crematorium required someone to pick them up within a week, and she couldn't bring herself to do it. So I went. The funeral director handed me this heavy wooden box with brass fixtures and expressed his condolences. I brought it home and tried to give it to her, but she couldn't even look at it. She told me to put it somewhere out of sight until she was ready. I stored it carefully in my closet for a few weeks. She never mentioned it. Whenever I gently brought it up asking if she wanted to talk about what to do with the ashes or if she wanted to plan a memorial, she would shut down or change the subject. Then about 6 weeks after her mom died, everything changed again, but not in the way I expected. She became distant, cold. She was on her phone constantly, angling the screen away from me when I walked by. She started going out more, coming home late with vague explanations about meeting friends I'd never heard of, and when I asked about her day, she would just give one-word answers. And yes, I knew something was up, but honestly, a part of me was relieved. The accusations had stopped. She was not checking my phone anymore. I could breathe a little bit. I didn't want to rock the boat by pushing too hard about where she was or who she was seeing, though. Then one Thursday morning, she came into the kitchen where I was making coffee and just said it. I'm done. I've met someone else. Someone who actually gets me, who doesn't make me feel insecure all the time. You need to move out. I was stunned. After everything I had done for her, everything I'd put up with, she was leaving me for someone else. When I asked who it was, she rolled her eyes and said it didn't matter, but I should know that he's successful and mature, unlike me. Later, when I was packing my stuff, her phone buzzed on the counter. The preview showed a text from someone named Anthony with a heart emoji saying he couldn't wait to see her tonight. I googled the name and found him easily. Anthony was her brother's best friend from college. Based on the timestamp of their earliest Instagram interaction, they'd been talking since before her mom died. She had been cheating on me the entire time that she was accusing me of cheating on her. The irony was not lost on me, of course, but I was too exhausted to even be angry. I just wanted out. I found a small apartment about 40 minutes away. It was not much, but it was mine and it was peaceful. No more walking on eggshells, no random accusations, no items thrown at my head. The rent and deposit wiped out my savings, but I didn't care. In the chaos of moving out, I asked her multiple times about her mom's ashes. She needed to take them. They were her mom's remains, but she couldn't even look at the box. So I carefully packed the wooden box in my trunk, wrapped in blankets to keep it secure. I figured once she calmed down and processed everything, she would ask for them back. I started looking for work immediately, and my old job had been close to our apartment, but now I needed something near my new place. I applied everywhere, and finally, after months and what felt like 100 interviews, I got an offer from a company 45 minutes away. The pay was decent and the hours were good, and they seemed like a solid company. I was supposed to start on a Monday. During those 3 months, I slowly started rebuilding my life. I went to the library a lot because I couldn't afford internet in my apartment yet. That is where I met Rena. She was studying for her nursing board exams, and we ended up chatting one day when we both reached for the same table. She was funny and easy to talk to, and we became friends. We would grab coffee sometimes, quiz each other on random trivia, talk about our lives. It was nice to have a normal friendship with a woman without constant jealousy and accusations. One afternoon we were at a Starbucks near the library. She was telling me about some ridiculous question on a practice exam, and I was laughing about something dumb that happened at my job. That's when I saw my ex walk in. She froze when she saw us. Her face went from surprise to rage in about 2 seconds. She stared at us for a long moment, then turned and walked out without ordering anything. My stomach dropped. I knew this was not gonna end well. That night, the text started. I'd blocked her number weeks ago, but she got around it by using different apps. Cheating bastard. I knew it. You were screwing her the whole time we were together. Everyone is going to know what you did to me. I didn't respond. There was really no point. In her mind, I guess, she had already decided what the truth was. Facts didn't matter. She had spent 2 years accusing me of cheating when I'd been completely faithful, and now that she had actually seen me having coffee with a female friend after we had broken up for months, she had the proof that she needed to validate her delusions. The Instagram posts started that weekend, long captions about emotional abuse, gaslighting, infidelity, and how she had given me everything and I had betrayed her. How she had been nothing but loving and supportive, and I'd thrown it away for someone else. Her friends and family ate it up. The comments were full of people calling me every name in the book, telling her she deserved better, praising her for being strong enough to leave. I didn't defend myself. I mean, what was the point? Anyone who knew the real story would not believe her version. And anyone who believed her didn't know me well enough for their opinion to matter. But then came the night that changed everything. It was 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. My first day at the new job was in less than 8 hours. I had laid out my clothes, set 3 alarms, and gone to bed early because I wanted to make a good first impression. The pounding on my door jolted me awake. I stumbled out of bed, disoriented, and opened it to find my neighbor from 2 doors down, eyes wide with panic. Your car's on fire! I ran outside in my pajamas. My entire car was indeed engulfed in flames. The heat was intense even from 20 feet away. Smoke poured into the night sky, and there across the street, backlit by the orange glow, was my ex. Phone out, recording. When she saw me, she started laughing. That's what cheaters get. She was genuinely enjoying this. She had driven 40 minutes in the middle of the night to burn my car and film my reaction. This was her revenge. I pulled out my phone and called 911. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. The pieces were clicking into place. My new job started tomorrow. I had no car, no savings left to Uber 40 minutes each way, no family nearby who could help. She had timed this perfectly to destroy the fresh start I'd been building. The fire department arrived within 10 minutes, but my car was already a total loss. As the firefighters worked, I watched my ex across the street, still filming, still laughing. But then it hit me. The ashes. Her mom's ashes were still in my trunk. I'd never taken them out. They had been in there for months, still wrapped in blankets, still in that heavy wooden box, and she had just burned them. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I smiled. Not a big smile, just a small one. She caught it and her laughter faltered for just a second. She probably thought I was losing it, but she had no idea. The police took my statement and I told them everything, that my ex and I had broken up months ago. That she had been sending threatening texts all week, that she was right there across the street filming all of this. They went to talk to her while I stayed with the firefighters. I watched as she argued with them, gesturing wildly, probably spinning some story about how I deserved this. They took her information and told her not to leave town. She drove off, still probably thinking she had won. I went back inside once the firefighters cleared the scene, but I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table and started making a list. By 6 a.m. I had a plan. First call, the funeral home. They opened at 8. I was on the phone at 8:01. I explained the situation to the director who had given me the ashes. He was horrified. He pulled up all the documentation showing I'd received the remains, the date, the time, even security footage of me leaving with the box. He said he would send everything to me and cooperate fully with any investigation, and the second call was to the police. I went to the station in person. I brought the documentation from the funeral home and explained that my ex had burned my car, but more importantly, she had destroyed human remains in the process. The officer's expression changed when I said that. He called over a detective. I told the detective everything, how her mom had died, how she couldn't handle the ashes and told me to take them, how they'd been in my trunk for months, and how she had burned my car last night. The detective asked if I had any proof that the ashes were in the car, and I showed him text messages from months ago where I'd asked my ex multiple times about the ashes and she had told me she didn't want them. I showed him the funeral home documentation and the detective made a call. Apparently, the destruction of cremated remains is a serious crime, especially since the ashes had technically crossed state lines from the crematorium. Federal offense territory. The third call, my ex's sister. I'd met her a few times during the relationship. She had always been kind to me, and I knew she had been close to her mom. I found her number in my old contacts. Hey, this is awkward, but I need you to tell you something about your mom's ashes. There was a long pause. What about them? My sister spread them at the lake months ago. She showed us pictures. My blood ran cold. She showed you pictures? Yeah, it was really beautiful. She did it at sunset. Why? And I explained everything. How her sister had refused to take the ashes, how they'd been in my trunk, how my ex had burned my car last night, and the silence on the other end lasted so long I thought she had hung up. You're telling me that our mother's ashes were in your car, and my sister burned them, and she lied to our entire family about spreading them? Yeah, I'm so sorry. She started crying, but then she got angry. She said she had been grieving their mom for months, thinking she had been laid to rest the way she wanted. The whole family thought that they had closure, and it had all been a lie. Fourth call, my buddy from college who had become a lawyer. I explained the situation and he actually laughed. She filmed herself committing arson and destroying human remains and posted about it online? She's completely screwed. He agreed to help me document everything and advised me on what to expect. He said with the evidence, the video and the federal aspect, this was gonna be serious for her. Over the next few days, things moved fast. The police got a warrant for my ex's social media accounts. She had posted the video of my car burning with the caption, "This is what happens to cheaters." And she had basically created a confession and broadcast it to the world. They arrested her on a Tuesday. I was not there for the arrest, but her sister called me afterwards. She was sobbing. The family had gathered at their house. Her sister had told everyone the truth about the ashes. They were devastated and furious. They'd been planning a memorial, talking about how beautiful it was that she had spread the ashes at the lake, sharing memories and finding peace, but all of it was based on a lie. When the police showed up to arrest my ex, her family was there. Her sister said she walked out of the house confused, asking what was going on. The detective read her rights and told her she was under arrest for arson and felony destruction of human remains, and that is when she realized. Her sister said the color drained from her face. She started shaking her head, saying it wasn't possible, that the ashes were not in the car. The detective told her they had documentation proving otherwise, and she looked at her family on the porch. Her dad, her siblings, her aunts and uncles who had come for a family dinner, they all stared at her with this mixture of disgust and betrayal. Her sister told me she screamed that he is lying and that he's setting her up. Her brother stepped forward. The funeral home has records. He picked up mom's ashes and you told him to take them. We have the texts. You told us that you spread them at the lake. That was her aunt, the one who had helped plan the fake memorial ceremony based on the fake photos. And her dad just looked at her and said something that her sister said broke everyone's heart. Your mom would be ashamed of you. They handcuffed her and put her in the squad car while her family watched. Her sister said nobody cried, they were all too angry. The legal process took a few months. My ex tried everything. She had claimed that I'd stolen the ashes to frame her, and she said I had manipulated her into letting me keep them. She argued that she didn't know they were in the car, but the evidence was overwhelming. The texts were that she told me to take them, the funeral home records, the video she filmed herself, the threatening messages she had sent before the arson. Her lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor was not interested. The destruction of human remains is taken seriously, and the fact that she had filmed herself committing arson made it an easy case. She was convicted on multiple counts: arson, destruction of human remains, and a few other charges related to threats and harassment. She got 4 years in prison. Her family testified against her, every single one of them. Her sister gave a victim's impact statement about the emotional trauma of believing their mother had been laid to rest only to discover she had been destroyed in an act of petty revenge. Her dad talked about the violation of trust and the desecration of his wife's memory. I gave a statement too. I kept it simple. I talked about the 2 years of abuse, the isolation, and the fear. I talked about how I had tried to help her through her grief, how I had carefully stored her mom's ashes and repeatedly tried to return them. I talked about how she had destroyed the car I needed to get to my job, trying to sabotage my fresh start, and the judge was not sympathetic to her. As for me, I ended up being okay. My car insurance covered the vehicle loss since arson by a third party was included in my policy. I got enough to buy a used but reliable car. My new job was understanding about the situation and let me start a week late. Rena helped me get around during that week and we are still good friends. My ex's family reached out to apologize and they had no idea what she had put me through before. Her sister told me they had found evidence that she had been lying and manipulating people for years, that I was not even the first boyfriend she abused. They wished they had known sooner, wished they had protected me. I told them it was not their fault. You cannot see the signs when someone you love is the abuser. You want to believe the best in them. And the next one is a super satisfying malicious compliance story that you don't want to miss. It is titled, "Landlord Tried to Exploit Me for Free Labor." So I'm renting a little house out past the suburbs of the city I'm currently working in. It's a little old and the appliances are a bit dated, but it was much cheaper than a 2-bedroom apartment downtown, and I move around every couple of years for work. My landlord lives out of state and doesn't have anyone local, so for the past year and a half I haven't talked to anyone, just pay my rent on time and keep doing my thing. About 4 months ago, plumbing issues started popping up and 2 major appliances decided to give up the ghost. I notified my landlord via email and written letter. I rent a lot and have learned to abide by the exact wording in a lease. After several follow-up emails and phone calls, a local handyman showed up to look at everything and provided a quote. After receiving the quote for parts plus labor, the landlord told me flat out that they will not be paying for the repairs. They said that since I'm an engineer, they would allow me to purchase parts, install them, and then deduct the cost of the repairs from my rent payment. They said it was either this or learn to make do. I was not super thrilled at this response. I replied back to them saying if they were willing to deduct my time and cost of the parts from my rent, that I would get started immediately. Thank you very much. They were thrilled to hear it and asked me to send receipts for their records when everything is finished. Great, now to put together all the pieces and get to work. The first step was to file for an LLC with my current state. Next, I set up some cameras and borrowed a GoPro from one of my hiking mates. I was able to document all the repair process, from me watching YouTube videos on how to do things to me making multiple runs to the parts store to get that piece I didn't know I needed. Well, here's the kicker though. At my day job I make over $50 an hour, that is what my time is valued at. The final bill for everything has worked out to be at about 12% higher than the quoted cost, and the landlord is very upset, but my lawyer added to the email chain has kept them very civil. And yeah guys, that's exactly how you need to deal with an awful entitled slumlord. And the next one is an awesome petty revenge story, and it is titled, "I managed to make my neighbor late for work." So I just have one of those neighbors who does not really break the law, but that neighbor does everything in her power to make sure she is annoying in one way or another. To begin this story, it is useful to note that my mom is disabled and needs a wheelchair to do anything. My neighbor is well aware of this and has always taken every single opportunity to make sure she ruins our day. I live at home with my mom and dad who works late, so I'm usually the one who has to deal with her. My neighbor is renting the rooms in her house to a lot of different people, so there are always different cars being parked on her driveway, and it's hard to know whose car is which. But there's more than enough room for all of their cars. Also, for security reasons, where I don't live in the best area, it's best that I park in front of my own house too, in case the Ring doorbell deters anyone away from car theft or anything like that if anything happens. For some reason though, she thinks that to give her tenants the best experience, she should always leave a few spaces on her driveway in case they are visitors, so time and time again she has parked in front of our house. However, it's important that I park there in case I have to drop my disabled mom anywhere, and the security issues as I mentioned before, so I've asked her before that she parks on her own driveway as there's enough space for everyone in the house. I've now come to the conclusion that because she keeps parking in front of our house that she simply cannot park and she doesn't want to admit it. I caught her once trying to park and she stalled so many times trying to get into her own driveway. So I guess she's just being stubborn, not admitting that she cannot drive, and is lazy because she can just take a few extra seconds to park carefully if she really needs to. Well then, last night I noticed that she parked in front of my driveway again, and I told her this week that it's not okay. So I simply parked in front of the small space she left, knowing full well her and her terrible parking will not be able to maneuver out of the gap that I left. And this morning, I was getting ready with the window open and I heard revving. Later on, she is knocking on my door saying she's running late and I need to inch my car forward in order for her to get to work. I wet my hair as if I was getting out of the shower, put a towel around me, and peeked through the narrowest crack in the door to answer her. I told her that you've just disturbed me taking a shower, so you will have to wait at least a few minutes. It is not my fault she cannot listen, and it's not my fault she doesn't want to learn or take the time to park on her own driveway. I was about 20 minutes in the shower, and I noticed in that time she did manage to pull away. But now I think I'm gonna do this every time she parks in front of us and really make it hard for her. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like, and I will see you again tomorrow.